Welcome back, everyone. We're diving deep today into the world of Officer Frank Tenpenny from Grand Theft Auto, San Andreas. We've got a mountain of sources to dig through. Police reports, witness testimonies, even some leaked documents that probably shouldn't be in our hands, but hey, that's how we roll, right?
What makes Tenpenny so fascinating, I think, is that he's not just a villain, right? He's not a simple, mustache-twirling bad guy. He's morally ambiguous. Some might even say he's a corrupt cop trying to actually, bring order to chaos.
Okay, hold on. Morally ambiguous. This is the head of CRASH, a unit practically synonymous with brutality and corruption.
Right, but that's what makes him interesting. He knows Los Santos inside and out. He understands that sometimes to clean up a city with so much violence and drug trafficking, you got to fight fire with fire. Take his connection to the Ballas gang, for instance. He uses them in a way to control the drug trade, make sure it doesn't explode.
Are you seriously suggesting that Tenpenny, a cop who's neck deep in the drug trade himself, is somehow a force for good? This is the guy who blackmailed CJ, threatened his family, forced him to do his dirty work, forced him further into the criminal world.
But look at the results. Tenpenny eliminates the threats, keeps those gangs, at least somewhat in check, and ultimately strives for a unified Los Santos. He's got the big picture in mind.
Stability, right.
Even if it requires unconventional methods.
Yeah, unified Los Santos. Yeah, built on fear, manipulation, silencing anyone who dares to question him. He had his own partner, Ross Pendlebury, killed because Pendlebury was about to expose him. Yeah. And Jimmy Hernandez, forced to dig his own grave before Pulaski. You know what happened.
Tragic, yeah, absolutely. But I think those were necessary sacrifices in Tenpenny's plan. He understood that sometimes tough choices, had to be made for the greater good. A city as lawless as Los Santos needed Tenpenny, someone to restore order, even if it meant, bending the rules.
This is what I don't get. How can you justify this abuse of power, this manipulation, the murder? Tenpenny thrives on chaos. He creates it, I think, so he can tighten his grip on the city. He's not a savior. He's like a puppet master.
But think about the impact. After the riots, after, CJ takes down Big Smoke and Tenpenny meets his end, there's a sense of peace that settles over Los Santos. The gangs are fractured, the drug trade is disrupted, and the community has a chance to rebuild.
At what cost, though? Countless lives destroyed, families torn apart, a city literally burning. That's not peace. That's a war zone. And you know what? Tenpenny's the one who declared war.
A war he won. He purged Los Santos of its most destructive elements, even if his methods were, morally complex.
But was it really a victory? Was the peace he achieved worth the suffering, the unimaginable suffering that he caused?
That's the question we have to explore, isn't it?
All right, you got me. I'm intrigued. Let's start with Tenpenny's rise to power. How did this guy become the puppet master of Los Santos?
Tenpenny, he didn't just, fall into power. He cultivated it, understood how to pull the strings in a city like Los Santos. He saw CRASH as not just a way to, fight crime, but as a way to reshape the whole city.
So you're saying he was a manipulator from the start, using the badge to get what he wanted.
Absolutely. And he didn't just, control the drug trade or the gangs. Look at how he orchestrated the fall of Sweet Johnson, CJ's brother, right? The leader of the Grove Street families.
Can you remind our listener who Sweet is?
Yeah, sure. Sweet was all about his neighborhood, wanted to keep Grove Street, clean, free of the crack epidemic that was destroying Los Santos. But Tenpenny saw Sweet's influence as a problem, for his own ambitions. So he used the loyalty within Grove Street, turned Big Smoke, one of CJ's closest friends, into an informant.
Wow, that's cold, turning friend against friend.
And it led to, that drive-by shooting. Meant for Sweet, but tragically it was CJ's mom who was killed.
Okay, that was a seriously messed up move, turning friend against friend, indirectly causing the death of an innocent woman. How can you defend that?
I think Tenpenny knew that to change Los Santos, he had to break down the existing power. Even if it meant tough choices. Sweet and the Grove Street families, they were part of the problem, right? The violence, the crime. That's what Tenpenny was trying to stop.
By fueling it himself. Come on. He was giving gangs weapons, turning a blind eye to the drug deals. He was profiting from the chaos, the same chaos he claimed to be fighting. He wasn't removing a tumor. He was the disease spreading through the city.
It was a A high-stakes game, the law, the way it was, wasn't working. Tenpenny, he thought, extraordinary situations, they needed extraordinary measures.
And what about the trial? All the evidence against him just gone. He walked free. The whole city exploded, riots just like the LA riots. That's Tenpenny's real legacy. A city in flames because of the anger he created.
I think the riots, they were about more than Tenpenny, right? They were about poverty, inequality, the racial tension, that stuff had been, building for years. Tenpenny, he was the spark, maybe, but the problems were already there.
Are you saying Tenpenny was some social reformer, the guy who got rich while ignoring the people suffering in his own city?
He knew the usual ways they weren't enough. To get rid of something so deep, sometimes you have to use tactics that might seem, morally questionable.
There's that phrase again, morally questionable. We're talking extortion, murder, manipulating people. That's not questionable. That's evil.
Oh, but it led to the gangs falling apart, the drug trade weakened, Los Santos had peace eventually. The ends, for Tenpenny, they justified the means.
But at what cost? How many innocent people, how many families were hurt? How much trauma did he cause to get this so-called peace? And even if things were calmer after he died, was it real? Was it built on, trust? Or was it just fear?
He was harsh, definitely. But he gets results. He knew how criminals think, how to use fear, how to act decisively.
He knew how to use people, how to find their weaknesses and use their loyalty against them.
Master strategist, playing a game, a complex game where the pieces were people's lives.
A manipulator, a bully, a tyrant who hid behind his badge.
Maybe, but you can't deny he had an impact. He changed Los Santos, whether you think it was for better or worse.
You know what? It's like we're not even speaking the same language. I'm talking about the morality, empathy, the people he hurt. And you're talking about strategy and some kind of abstract order.
I don't think those have to be separate. Tenpenny was a pragmatist. He wanted to get things done, even if it meant hard choices.
Hard choices.
Yeah.
He chose to betray his oath as a cop, abandon his principles. He became the very thing he was supposed to be fighting.
He thought he was a necessary evil, protecting Los Santos from the real villains, the gangs, the drugs, all the chaos that could destroy the city.
You really admire him, don't you?
Maybe not, but I do respect his vision. He was willing to lead, in a situation where most people would run away.
Lead. He stopped being a leader when he decided the law didn't apply to him.
He worked outside the normal rules, He knew sometimes you got to bend the rules to get to what's good.
This is crazy. You're trying to make this corrupt cop into a hero, sacrificing himself to save the city.
He was a product of his environment, shaped by all the violence and corruption in Los Santos. He fought fire with fire. He thought it was the only way the city would understand.
We all have choices.
Yeah.
And Tenpenny chose power,
yeah,
corruption, violence. He chose to be a monster. And because of that, Los Santos is worse off than before.
Complex guy. A world of gray, not black and white.
Yeah. Oh, come on. The complex excuse again. It's not complex. He was a bad guy. Simple as that.
Maybe. But his story, it makes you think, right? About power, justice, the choices we make in a world where good and evil, they're not always so clear.
You know what? I need a minute to think about all this. I'm getting whiplash from trying to follow your logic.
Take your time. These are complicated ideas.
Okay, let's take a breath and then revisit the end of Tenpenny's story, the chase, the crash, the last words of a man who thought he was right until the very end. All right, I've had some time to process all this, and I'm still not buying the whole Tenpenny as a necessary evil thing.
It's not about putting him in a box, good or evil. It's about understanding him. He was complicated, and the choices he had to make in a city like Los Santos, they were incredibly difficult.
But he didn't have to make those choices, right? He could have been a good cop, upheld the law, protected people, but he chose power, corruption, and violence.
And because of that, he was able to bring some order, right, to a city that was desperate for it. Think about his final moments, crashing in that fire truck. Even then, he was defiant, justifying what he did, saying that he was the only one who could save Los Santos.
Delusional, right, to the very end. Blinded by his own messed up sense of justice. He did way more harm than good, and him dying, that was a fitting end for someone who caused so much pain.
But his death, it did change things in Los Santos, right? Gave the city a chance to heal, rebuild, maybe on a stronger foundation.
But that healing, it can't erase the damage he did, right?
Yeah.
People in Los Santos, they'll be dealing with the consequences of his actions for years to come.
Maybe, yeah. But his story, it shows us that sometimes to really change things, you have to do things that are unconventional, even morally challenging.
Yeah.
He understood that doing good doesn't always mean good intentions.
And that's where we just don't see eye to eye.
Yeah.
I can't be okay with doing evil no matter what, even if you dress it up as something good. Tenpenny was a cancer on Los Santos, and getting rid of him, as messy as it was, that was the only way for the city to survive.
He was a product of that environment, Violence and corruption, that was at Los Santos. He fought fire with fire because he thought that was the only way the city would listen.
We all have choices, and Tenpenny, he always chose the dark path, and he paid the price for it.
Powerful figure, can't deny that. Left his mark on Los Santos, and on video games.
Yeah, he did, and that's why I think Frank Tenpenny is such a fascinating character. Even now,
Yeah.
he makes us think about power, and justice, and what's right and wrong. It's not easy with Tenpenny, is it? There's no easy answers, just a lot of hard questions.
He reminds us that good and evil, they're not always so clear-cut. And even when things are really bad, there are people who will do whatever it takes, no matter what it costs them, to make a change.
Whether that change is good or bad, well, that's for each of us to decide. So what do you think? Was Tenpenny a necessary evil, a tragic hero, or just a bad guy with a badge?
Yeah.
Tell us what you think.
Yeah, let us know. What can we learn from Frank Tenpenny, even if his story is messed up and controversial?
This has been a real deep dive, and we've only just scratched the surface. So until next time, keep diving deep, and we'll catch you on the flip side.